In the year 800 AD, the Holy Roman Emperor Charlemagne issued a famous decree called the Capitulary de Villis. It was a master list of the specific plants that every farm, monastery, and estate in his vast empire was required by law to grow. High on that list was a leafy green that grew 6 feet tall, with leaves that glowed in shades of neon magenta and translucent gold. It was not spinach. Spinach would not arrive in Europe for another 400 years. For millennia, this was the undisputed king of greens. It fed the builders of the pyramids, it fueled the Roman legions, and it sustained the pioneers of the American frontier. It was the golden vegetable of history, prized because it refused to die in the heat and provided nourishment when everything else withered. But if you walk into a supermarket today, you will not find it. You will not see it on a menu. We traded the emperor's survival crop for a bag of watery leaves that rot in a plastic clamshell. This is the story of Orach, and how we forgot the most resilient vegetable in history because the industrial food system decided it was bad for business. Welcome to Ancestral Yields. If you are ready to reclaim the lost harvests of the past, smash that like button and subscribe. Let us dig into the history they erased. To understand why Orach is superior to modern greens, we have to look at it under a microscope. This plant possesses a biological mechanism that seems almost alien compared to standard garden vegetables. Orach is a halophyte. In plain English, that means it is a salt lover. Most plants die if the soil is too salty or too rich in minerals. They become dehydrated and burn. Orach, however, evolved on harsh, windswept steppes and coastlines. To survive, it developed specialized structures called epidermal bladder cells. Think of these as microscopic vaults on the surface of the leaf. When the plant pulls up water from the soil, it also pulls up large amounts of minerals, magnesium, calcium, and salts. Instead of letting these minerals damage its internal organs, the plant pumps them into these bladder cells. This mechanism makes Orach a mineral concentrator. When you eat a leaf of Orach, you are popping thousands of these tiny mineral balloons. Let's look at the hard numbers. We are going to compare a standard serving of 100 grams, roughly 3.5 ounces. According to USDA data, a serving of raw spinach contains about 79 milligrams of magnesium. That's decent. But Orach? Because of those bladder cells, samples have been tested showing upwards of 500 milligrams of magnesium per the same 3-cup serving. Magnesium is the spark plug of the human body, essential for over 300 enzyme reactions, and most Americans are chronically deficient. Orach is effectively a living magnesium supplement. Then there is calcium. Spinach is famous for it, offering about 99 milligrams per serving. But Orach doubles down, delivering roughly 200 milligrams. That is nearly 20% of your daily requirement in a salad without the dairy. But the real shocker is vitamin C. We usually look to oranges for immune support. Spinach gives you a modest 28 milligrams per serving. Orach? It delivers a staggering 145 milligrams. That is 5 times the vitamin C of spinach and more than you would get from a large lemon. And here is the kicker. Spinach is loaded with oxalic acid, which gives it that gritty teeth feeling and can block nutrient absorption. Orach has significantly lower levels of oxalates, meaning those minerals are actually bioavailable. Your body can absorb them. So, if this plant is a nutritional rocket ship, why haven't you heard of it? It wasn't always this way. Orach has a pedigree that puts kale to shame. Seeds have been found in ancient Greek pottery, and Pliny the Elder, the Roman naturalist, prescribed it as a cure for swollen glands and exhaustion. For centuries, if a recipe in Europe called for greens or potherbs, they were not talking about spinach, they were talking about Orach. But the American connection is where the story gets interesting. When European settlers arrived in the New World, they brought Orach seeds with them. In the 18th and 19th centuries, before the era of refrigeration, you needed a plant that would not bolt, which means going to seed and turning bitter when summer arrived. Thomas Jefferson, a man obsessed with agricultural experimentation, documented planting it in his gardens at Monticello, often referring to it as French spinach. But it was not just for the elites. In 1863, Fearing Burr, the legendary American agriculturalist, wrote The Field and Garden Vegetables of America. In this Bible of American farming, Orach was listed as a standard staple. He described it as a plant that offered a harvest throughout the heat of summer, long after the spinach had withered and died. It was the working man's spinach. On the frontier, where grocery stores did not exist, you needed a plant that could grow 6 feet tall and produce pounds of food from a single seed. Orach was the dependable engine of the homestead kitchen. It came in stunning varieties: deep crimson, translucent gold, and vivid green. It was beautiful, it was hardy, and it was everywhere. Until the trucks came. In the early 20th century, the American food system shifted. We stopped growing food in our backyards and started buying it from centralized farms. This new system relied on one thing: the cold chain. The cold chain is the network of refrigerated trucks and warehouses that moves produce across thousands of miles. To survive the cold chain, a vegetable needs to be tough. It needs to fit in a box. It needs to hold its shape for a week. Spinach has a thick, waxy leaf. It can be harvested mechanically, washed in chlorine baths, spun dry, shoved into a plastic bag, shipped 3,000 miles, and still look vaguely edible when you buy it. Orach has a fatal flaw for the industrialist. It is too delicate. Those tender leaves that taste so good have thin cell walls. Once you cut a leaf of Orach, it begins to wilt within hours if it is not kept immediately cool and hydrated. It cannot survive the abuse of the industrial supply chain. So the industry made a choice. They sacrificed nutritional density for logistical ease. They canceled the Roman superfood because it refused to stay fresh in a plastic shell. The industry's loss is the home gardener's gain. The very reason Orach fails in the supermarket is the reason it will thrive in your backyard. This plant wants to be eaten fresh, straight from the stalk, at the peak of its potency. And the best part, it is nearly impossible to kill. Unlike spinach, which panics and dies when the temperature hits 75 degrees Fahrenheit, 24 degrees Celsius, Orach utilizes its halophytic nature to retain water and resist stress. It thrives in USDA zones 4 through 10, and while it is a cool season annual, it persists into the dog days of July and August, long after other greens have turned bitter. Now, a word of caution. Orach is part of the Chenopodium family, related to lamb's quarters. While edible, you should never forage for greens in urban wastelands, roadsides, or industrial parks. Remember those bladder cells we talked about? They soak up everything, minerals, yes, but also heavy metals and pesticides if the soil is contaminated. You want Orach that is pure. Do not forage for wild Orach unless you are an expert. Instead, buy certified heirloom seeds. Look for varieties like Red Plume or Aurora. Companies such as Baker Creek and Seed Savers Exchange carry these distinct varieties. How do you plant it? Orach is an annual, meaning it completes its life cycle in 1 year. It grows rapidly in the spring and summer, produces seeds in the fall, and will die back when the hard winter frost hits. But don't worry, it has a strategy for that. Sow the seeds directly into the soil about 2 to 3 weeks before your last spring frost. Plant them about ½ an inch deep. They are not fussy. They tolerate alkaline soil, clay, and neglect. When harvesting, treat this plant like a small tree. Do not pull it up by the roots. Instead, use a method called coppicing. When the plant gets about 1 foot tall, snip off the top a few inches. This stimulates the plant to branch out, creating a bushier, denser canopy. You can harvest from a single plant for months. Here is the magic trick. At the end of the season, let 1 or 2 plants go to seeds. They will produce beautiful seed stalks. When winter comes, the plant will die, and it will drop hundreds of seeds onto the soil. Next spring, those seeds will wake up and plant themselves. Once you establish a patch, you never have to buy seeds again. It is a perpetual motion machine of nutrition. For thousands of years, our ancestors looked to the soil not just for calories, but for strength. They did not rely on a global supply chain to keep them healthy. They relied on the wisdom of plants that knew how to survive right alongside them. When you plant this seed, you are picking up a thread that was dropped only a century ago. You are reconnecting with a time when food was harvested by hand, eaten fresh, and valued for its nourishment, not its packaging. You are bringing mountain spinach back from the edge of oblivion and giving it a home in the soil where it belongs. So this season, make space in your garden for the old ways. Plant the crimson giant that sustained generations before us. If you are ready to rediscover the harvest of your ancestors, subscribe. We have a lot more history to uncover, and the best place to start is in the dirt. See you in the garden.